Valtteri Bottas has joined Mercedes as a reserve driver, and it looks like there is going to be much more behind this move, as Russell shared his area of expertise that he will try to extract as much as he can from the Finn. Driving for Sauber, Bottas has tons of experience regarding the engine of Ferrari, which would be pivotal for Mercedes headed into 2026 onwards. But how can they learn as much as they can, given the fact that Sauber was a customer team, and more importantly, is there any way that Bottas would help Mercedes to be one step ahead of the Maranello squad in the newly regulated era? One of the most anticipated eras is right upon us, even though we have quite a competitive season in 2025 before the new regulations strike the grid. But with Pirelli's tyre tests being underway with Ferrari and McLaren, it's obvious that we are getting a bit more of a palpable feeling of what is to come next. And this is the reality that might see one team dominate in a similar fashion to Mercedes back in 2014. The similarity of the rules regarding the engine power shift is too big, and on top of that, the chassis change is also adding to a very exciting period. But Russell and Mercedes know where they should be looking: the engine of the car. Mercedes are known for building strong, reliable and competitive engines that could give them a very valuable advantage compared to the rest of the grid. This is why Bottas' arrival as a reserve driver holds much greater value than we may have previously thought, apart from the fact that he'll serve as a role model for Kimi Antonelli to learn from. The reunion of Bottas and Mercedes is definitely the greatest thing that could have happened to the 10-time race winner, because he is going to stay in shape in case something extraordinarily bad happens with the 6 rookies that are present on the grid. We must not forget that in 2026 we will have an 11th team joining the grid, and Cadillac has been quite open when it comes to signing the Finn onto their roster. Still, that is a bit in the future, and Valtteri has one great mission ahead of himself: to provide as much information about Ferrari's engine to Mercedes as possible. Even though Sauber was and still is a customer team of Ferrari before their transition to Audi, the team had a lot of information about certain settings of the engine, such as the mapping and the performance under different setups. Russell, for one, believes that this will hold a crucial advantage over securing a step ahead move from 2026 onwards. And when talking about it to a greater extent, the Brit went on to say, Bottas' experience is going to be massive. Having someone with so much simulator and racing knowledge and who fully knows the team is going to be great. Hearing about his last few years at Sauber with the Ferrari engine could be key too. You always have to keep an open mind as to what others are doing, and he has all of that under his belt. Obviously, years ago we were perceived to not have strong relationships, but we are both professionals and our relationship has grown. We often travel together and see each other at hotels or in the gym. There is no doubt about it, Mercedes means business, and even though some of their actions were perceived as unnecessary, like the banning of the nude calendar of Bottas that gathered money for charity purposes, there is no doubt that the Brackley-based squad is ready to return to the top step sooner rather than later. It's interesting to have the reserve driver holding a very crucial role in this situation, because if you think about it, Bottas was the best wingman that Hamilton had throughout his tenure with Mercedes from 2017 to 2021, as we do know for a fact that the 7-time world champion didn't want Bottas to be replaced in 2022. Still, Bottas is going to be a pivotal part of Mercedes' comeback plan because of his experience and knowledge that he would be transferring to Kimi Antonelli. Wolff has been adamant that the role of the Finn is very clear, although after the latest statement from Russell, it's obvious that it could expand to different sections depending on the knowledge that the 10-time race winner will have. Even if Bottas gives profound information about Ferrari's engine, the belief is that Antonelli would be his primary target to work on, and it's a role that Valtteri has accepted without any issues or setbacks, because he knows for a fact that it's going to keep him in shape when the first opportunity of making a comeback will present itself on the grid. But let's get back to what's really important here, the new regulations. Mercedes have been loud and clear that 2025 is going to be a learning season for them, and a season in which they will try to get Antonelli up to date with everything revolving around the car as much as they can. A bold move by Hamilton has also provoked a bold move by Mercedes, signing a driver who was yet to complete one full F2 season, and especially after the FP1 crash in Monza, doubts doubts have arisen as to whether or not Antonelli has what it takes to keep that speed within the track limits. This is going to be the primary goal for 2025, but once 2026 comes in, a different tune will be played in Brackley. The team is dubbed to be one of the favourites to win it all because of their engine supremacy, and while Ferrari are going to be extremely close, if not ahead of Mercedes, it is going to be a very tight battle at the front. Honda have already stated their concerns about the 2026 development of their engines, and with Red Bull and Audi practically being rookies in this department, the grid should be set for a two-way battle between Mercedes and Ferrari. The greatest threats to their dominance are still Aston Martin, with all of the changes made for the newly regulated era, as well as Max Verstappen and the duo of McLaren, who shouldn't be underestimated because they are going to use Mercedes aggregate as well. When talking about the 2026 goals, Wolff has come out with a very realistic statement that the team won't have anywhere to hide, and if they have gotten anything wrong with the car, it's going to be visible from day one. This happened throughout the 2022 regulations, where we all believed Mercedes had something hidden up their sleeve, but it turned out that the aerodynamic development of the car was in fact a massive flaw that they couldn't overcome, even if their lives depended on it. Furthermore, Wolff said, "I don't have a stomachache. It's a super interesting challenge that we are going to experience in 2026. You have to do your job as well as possible on all levels. A good engine alone won't get us anywhere. McLaren will have that too. Then we have to beat them on the chassis. We have nowhere to hide." But the general belief in Mercedes' internal circles is that the new regulations are going to be very similar to the ones that we had in 2014, which couldn't be greater news for the Brackley-based squad. The technical director, James Allison, who wasn't part of Mercedes when they made all of the preparation for the turbo hybrid era, stated that the feeling among the peers in the Brackley-based squad is very similar to the one they had in 2014. If it turns out this way, it would be a massive disappointment for Hamilton, who believes that Ferrari will have the upper edge regarding the entire development of the car for the new regulations, as well as the last year of the current era. Elaborating on what the future holds for Mercedes, Allison said, "I wasn't in the team in the run-up to 2014 when the new generation of power units was being concocted and the enormous push to make them a reality was taking place. But those of us in the team who were tell me that the feeling is very similar. There is a massive shove going on in Mercedes high-performance powertrains to make a success of that, because it will set the course of anyone who's lucky enough to have that in the back of their car for some seasons to come. We're lucky that we will be on the receiving end of all the good investment they are making on our joint behalf." Of course, it's very important for Mercedes that they can gather as much data as possible from other competitors like Williams, McLaren and also Alpine. So with all this in mind, do you think that the Brackley-based squad is set for a domination period once the new regulations start? And if so, do you think that they would be able to prove to Hamilton that they were always in the right with the preparation for 2026? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want to know more about Hamilton's latest feedback regarding Ferrari's testing, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.